Oh, please. Is so fun. You can hear me? But I can't hear you at all. Not at all. So anyway, hello. This is the Durham Support Group meeting with Dr. Eric Westman of Duke University and me, Casey Durango of Go Keto with Casey. We are virtual this month because our logistics have changed, and our venue that we've had for quite a while now, actually, they could not accommodate us anymore. Oh, I hear Dr. Westman. I hear feedback anyway.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. So what's going to happen, we think, is in February, unless we remain virtual, we will be in a different venue, and more information will follow on that. So there we are. So let's say, Dr. Westman, truly, I'm a little disturbed that my head looks huge, and yours looks. We need to come up with something better. This is I look like a gigantor. Oh, that's better.
Can you bigger?
That's good. Thank you. Yes, that makes me feel less enormous. And there's fat girl flashback.
Uh-oh.
Feeling enormous is not a good thing, even when you're a runt like I am. I'm a tiny short person, but I felt enormous. All right, so here's what we're going to do. For those of you who are here for the first time, Crowdcast is a little bit different than, say, a YouTube situation. There is, depending on how you're here, on a device, on a tablet, on a PC, whatever, there should be somewhere a speech bubble with a question mark in it. Please, if you have a comment or question, post it there, because what happens is, as comments start coming in, it's very difficult to keep up with them. But if you put them there, we can see them, we can answer them. It's a couple of cool things going on. And with that having been said, I'm going to switch over to comments on my screen. So I just jump in. Hello from South Dakota. Blizzard in progress. Thanks for the diversion. Gina Bishop, good evening. Wonderful and good people from Dayton, Ohio. Hello, Casey and Dr. Westman from Roseanne, and Beth Howard writes, happy 2023. Yes, happy 2023.
Can you believe it?
Yeah, I'm happy about it. I will say, it's been a weird few years. Me, very personal, on a very personal level. 2022, not my favorite year, but it's 2023 now, and I like odd numbers. So ending in a 3 is good for me.
Why?
I don't know. I just do. I like prime numbers, and I like odd numbers, and I really like things of 3. Hello from Durham. Hello from Flat Rock, Michigan. Hello from Durham. Happy New Year. Hey, Amy Miller, who's been at every single Durham. She was probably at the meetings, Dr. Westman, before you started them. She was probably there from the very beginning. And then there you go. Okay, Rich C. Hey, Rich. And Grant Davies writes, happy to join you, Grand Rapids, Michigan. And Amy writes, not quite. Okay. All of this having been said, and we'll come back to comments. But again, type your comment or question or observation in the speech bubble that has the question mark so that we can get to them. Dr. Westman, how are you?
Well, I was so relaxed today going back to work. I forgot my computer. Fortunately, it's not so far. And, the first appointment of the year didn't show up. So I was able to, very tactfully, without much loss or notice, that I left and got my computer and came back. But no, it was a great holiday. I took off the week between Christmas and New Year's. Made a memo to myself last year when half the people didn't show up for their appointments at the end of the year. Yeah.
Can I ask you, do you think this is one of those things you've referenced many times, where the holiday turned into a hollow week, and they don't want to let you down, and they're embarrassed?
Well, I'm afraid so. But so that I think is going to be a routine, that I just take that time off. So I had quite a relaxing. Didn't travel, which was another big plus. Although one of my kids who came home brought COVID from Brooklyn. So, not only presence, but also COVID. So, it's just an interesting time. It's the monthly support group. I'm not sure if we should go immediately back to face, and maybe we should do this for a while. I kind of like some feedback on, although this is a select.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to make a poll. You keep talking. I'm going to create a poll and ask just IRL or virtual, go for maybe a couple of months. So I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see, and you start talking. I'm going to see if I can remember how to go stage left. I think I can move myself somewhere else.
So of course, this is like, asking if anyone wants to vote Republican at a Republican convention, or the opposite. So how many of you want to come to a in-person event? And of course, we're all on Crowdcast. We're all virtual, but that's okay. So I'm glad to have time off now, back at work. We're actually in the middle of a 7-day keto challenge with Adapt Your Life Academy. Maybe some of you joined up for that. And this year we asked people to pay $9 to get in, thinking that if they had more skin in the game, they would be more successful. And last count, we have about 1,700 people.
Whoa! Dinner's on you next time.
Yeah, well, at $9 for the company, I don't get any of that. But anyway.
You're getting screwed, and not in a good way.
But anyway, so if you can imagine, we have 1,700 people in a Facebook group who are learning the method, the page 4, more and more. I'm just not sure. So we have an offer to be at a church. I heard from Steve today, the Santa Project leader, helping Santas lose weight. I had a meeting where a friend of mine does what I do, and his daughter gave him a hard time. Oh, Dad, you're even helping Santa lose weight? Oh, come on. Like it was a bad thing to do. Well, of course, as Steve tells us, the Santa who teaches other Santas are dropping dead of diabetes and heart disease because they're too big. So what seems like jolly and happy has the downside. And anyway, so Steve has his church on board but it's a little bit outside of Durham, and I'm not sure. And it's going to be farther for Kyle, because he's on the other side. Anyway, so we're going to think about that, but great to be here virtually. And I wanted to bring up, of course, if there's anyone new, our routine is, if there's anyone new who wants to speak up, please let us know. Chime in what topic to bring up, or why you're here specifically. A lot of people are here to reboot after the holidays. Don't let the holiday become a hollow week. The hollow week become a hollow month. So I did want to bring up, until someone's bold enough to speak up, that there was a paper that came out that got some attention about the non-sugar sweeteners. Did you see it? No, that's right. You sent me the one about the finances. No, so there was a different one where the headline was that the artificial sweeteners are, impact metabolism and are bad for you, and the detail of it is not anything like that. So again, it's one of these. They had mostly mice, and it was the microbiome that changed. Oh my God, the microbiome. And apparently they did some people in this project, this paper, but they didn't show. So they had continuous glucose monitors on these people having artificial sweeteners, but they didn't show any of the results. Like they didn't. So they showed the CGM of the mice, and the blood glucose weight goes way up. They didn't show the blood glucose of the people, which really makes me, they certainly would have shown it
if it proved their point.
if it proved their point. Yeah. So
Okay.
anyway,
First of all, I'm sorry to interrupt.
yeah.
What the hell does a CGM monitor look like for a mouse? I mean, what are we talking? It's a Tic Tac.
A little tiny.
It's a little tiny CGM monitor. What, did he shave the little miles to put the thing to attach it?
And did it cross your mind how much sugar is in the bloodstream of a mouse?
Good point.
A lot less than in a human. I didn't even do that calculation. But so anyway, again, it's one of these pot shots that I bet the sugar industry, one day someone's going to do the sleuthing to find out that the sugar industry has a budget to do hack jobs on artificial sweeteners, because
I don't think Gary Taubes said that. I actually read his book, on the case. Yeah, I thought, okay, great. He's going to say yes, they have sponsored research to denigrate non-sugar sweeteners. It didn't happen. I mean, he didn't write it, so I assume it hasn't happened, but maybe someone just hasn't found it. I'm going to interrupt this thing. A couple of things. I've posted a poll, so if you guys can see it. A second thing, I want to go back to what you said, that this is kind of a biased group who might say, there's a different thing here. Let's face it. The in-person people were, 20 people. And then we were streaming on different platforms. And that's not always conducive. I mean, that streaming is different than, for instance, being able to ask questions right here. So this kind of streaming is different than putting a camera in front of people talking in a room. So that having been said, and remind me, stick a pin in it, as they say. A company sent me a continuous glucose monitor, and I did wear one. They wanted me to write a review of it, and now they don't want me to write a review of it. They don't want to know my thoughts on the continuous glucose monitor.
With a doctor's prescription, you can get for $100 two of these 2-week. It's the Libres, and so I figure I'll charge $100 to write you a prescription. I'm joking.
I know you are. Yep.
So hopefully soon, word has it that soon you'll be able to get one without a prescription.
I got one without a prescription. They sent it to me. I had to complete a survey. This is a company, and they sent me the Libre. It was the Libre, and they had scratched out all the barcode stuff on it. But anyway, let's talk to a question. This is one of the advantages. Oh, by the way, let me do this. Can I do this?
Describe where the poll is. It took me just a moment to find it.
Okay, well, on my screen, it is to the right of the chats, the comments. And so what we have is heavily in favor of Crowdcast. So far, we have 10 responses.
Yeah.
Okay, so there we go. Now, the question. Now, watch this. This is one of the cool things about Crowdcast that I really like. So I'm going to read the question, and look what happens on the screen. I hope it starts. Look, it pops up in text. Question. Suggestions for getting enough daily protein in for someone that had bariatric surgery, i.e. eat additional protein even when not hungry, protein shake made with clean ingredients, etc. It's a great question.
It's 6:45.
Thank you, darling. This is Daniel, my computer lover, reminding me that it's 6:45.
That was interesting.
Okay, so protein comes up a lot anyway, but for bariatric patients, you have to get your protein first, right?
Yeah. So Kimberly asks, so it depends how long ago was your surgery, and please, I think there's time here to add in how long ago was your surgery. If you're immediate post-operatively, then your doctors should have given you advice on how much to have. So even the surgeons immediately after the operation will talk to you about protein shakes. In fact, the surgeons use the low carb diet before and after the surgery. So it's like they're cheating. but we don't get credit for it. But so you can shrink the liver before weight loss surgery by using a low carb diet because the fatty liver goes down, and then after the surgery, you have to be very careful to get enough protein in. So you had it in 1988. Okay, that was okay. Now I do the math on that. 12 plus 22, so 34 years ago. I'm not sure, Kimberly, that your surgery is functioning, and it depends which one. Now you can have a doctor do a test, an upper GI or an endoscopy to look in there or swallow something, and they show you what the anatomy looks like. And in fact, if it were me and I wasn't feeling well or I had surgery like that long ago, I would ask for an imaging test to see just what it's turned out to be through the years. The darndest things happen. There are these in the gut. There are these rings that they put around the esophagus, and they undo themselves and end up in the other part of the stomach.
What's back beep 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 back up? Say that again.
Well, there's a surgery, a ring that you can put around the esophagus to kind of like you would do around a swan or an animal to make them not eat much, but it's inside for heartburn. I know this is a tangent, but what I'm trying to say is that the gut can change over time, and what they did, over 30 years ago, you want to know what it looks like today. So
you're saying you want to know what the actual physical
anatomy. Yeah. So especially if you're not feeling well or you're unable to absorb enough protein or you have concerns about that, then any doctor can order a test to see what the surgery looks like. And now I'm at a tertiary care center. I'm at a place like Duke, where it's common to do a test like this because people come from all over. It's not unheard of for us to do it. Your own primary care doctor might say, why should I do this? Well, first you want to know that you have an intact anatomy. Of course, one of the things that can tell us that as well is to make sure that you don't have anemia. So a third of the people who have weight loss surgery will develop anemia because they can't absorb iron. And even when you take iron, can't absorb it. There are some people who have to go and get iron infusions. So I know I'm talking about all the side effects of the surgery and the downsides because I'm not a surgeon. There are so many other things to do for medical weight loss that you want to be careful to be able to say you've tried all these other things before getting surgery. Okay, so the VBG, the vertical banded gastroplasty, is not done anymore, which again makes me wonder what it looks like inside. But back to your question. So how much protein you need is an individual thing. It's based on the size of the person, not just grams per day, but it's a gram per kilogram. And then what's confusing is that it's based on the grams per kilogram of lean body mass. So if you have a lot of fat mass on your body, if you're overweight or obese, you don't just multiply the grams times your kilograms. It should be the lean body mass. That said, it should be somewhere between 50 and 100 grams of protein per day, generally speaking. But again, that doesn't mean you're going to absorb it. And the proof is in how are your muscles doing. And you want to make sure that you're doing some sort of muscle exercise. Resistance training is fantastic for that, and it doesn't have to be super strenuous. But so it's complicated. So you want to make sure that the stomach is intact enough for you to be able to absorb the protein, and the proof of the absorbing of the protein and the iron, for that matter, is that your muscles are strong and that your blood proteins are normal and you don't have anemia. Wow. So
You
that
know,
way too
well,
much.
no, that's not too much. Well, you packed a lot in there, of course, which is a trite phrase. But here's one of the problems that I see, one of the challenges. And I'm speaking as a consumer of information and a formerly very fat consumer of information. You're looking for the answer, the number, the structure. And honestly, there isn't one. I mean, there's like a general, don't run into a volcano. That's generally good advice for everybody. But some people have a higher tolerance for heat than others. Don't run into a volcano. But some people live in the tropics and do great, and some people live in Anchorage and do great. We want to know. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm not and never have been a patient of Dr. Westman's. He and I have become friends, I dare to say, because I came across the white coat video that if you only had 50 cents for every time that video has been seen or referenced, you would be living on a beach in, Bali, Bali right now. But anyway, I saw the video. I was morbidly obese. I had given up on losing weight. The universe wanted me to be fat. I didn't want to take insulin for type 2 diabetes. So how to not take, that was the answer I was looking for. How to not take insulin for type 2 diabetes. And maybe I posed the question to Google so vaguely that it couldn't just give me an answer. It came into this video. Keep your carbs 20 grams or fewer a day. Total, not net. If it's not on page 4, I usually say link below because I'm usually doing videos and it's a link below. But don't eat it. Don't eat if you're not hungry. I think you said eat when you're hungry. I say don't eat if you're not hungry and stop when you're satiated. I've added 2 more. Be patient and persevere because that's hard, right?
The specific case, though, of having your intestines rerouted, the stomach changed, and all that means that some of these simple rules may not apply. And it may have messed up with your hunger signals and the fullness. And in that case, Kimberly, I think you're right to ask just how much should you have if you're not able to gauge, like most of us, the amount without some kind of quantitation of it.
Interesting. I hadn't thought of that. You've literally restructured the mechanism that we would normally that people relied on for millennia. And now we've taken out knives.
As past president of the Obesity Medicine Association, that's the largest group of medical weight loss doctors. I've met a lot of doctors around the country and around the world, actually, who do this. And, many of them who do medical weight loss, many of them are angry at the surgeons for actually harming people that they were treating. And then they go get the surgery and then they come back and there are some doctors who are just angry about it because the patients were doing fine. And these instances, the surgeons kind of sold them a bill of goods to say that it would be better when it didn't turn out to be that way. But I met the surgeon who created the first weight loss surgery. I don't know if I told you this story.
No.
He's a doctor in Canada, and it's either Picard Morceau or Morceau Picard. What's the first name? Jean-Luc Picard. It must be Morceau. I don't know. But he came. Star Trek metaphor there.
You're a nerd.
So, hey, come on. So I'm speaking at a bariatric surgery meeting about medical weight loss, and they invited me to speak, and it was very polite of them. I think I was one of 2 medical talks in the entire, hundreds of surgery talks, and in Montreal. And I get up, I give my talk, and then this gentleman comes up. He's an older gentleman. He goes, I'm Dr. Picard, or is it Dr. Morceau? I forget. And he says, I really enjoyed your talk. And I go, oh my goodness, I know your name. I know you created the weight loss surgery. And it was the duodenal switch, it was called first. But I had a chance, he was asking me questions, and we were out in the hallway, and I said, kind of off the track a little bit, I said, there are a bunch of doctors who are really mad at you, and you created the surgery. I knew you could take it. It seemed like he was in his 80s, or and when in human history have we taken out a normal organ? It's not abnormal. You're taking out someone's stomach, and so there are a lot of doctors who are angry about this, the medical weight loss doctors. And he thinks for a moment and goes, you take out the organ to save the organism.
Oh.
It's just a rationalization. But over the last couple of years, I've learned a lot about sugar addiction. And a friend of mine at a medical weight loss meeting came up to me and said, I don't remember you ever saying sugar addiction before, because he had been saying it for years. And I was always kind of, during the pandemic, I've learned a lot. And fortunately, from Vera Tarman, who's an addiction specialist in Toronto, she has a book and a podcast called Food Junkies, that some people are just downright addicted to sugar. And so they're so addicted, they get diabetes, type 2 diabetes, because they can't stop eating carbs. And it's not just sugar, but it's also carbs, so that they end up getting the weight loss surgery because they're so out of control. They're the worst sugar addicts, kind of generally speaking. So Kimberly, I wonder if this kind of rings true, that you're, or still are, have remnants of a sugar addiction, and you were so out of control that you had to have an operation to control it. I'm reminded that someone with a cigarette addiction, nicotine addiction, can be so addicted that they'll smoke, through the stoma of their neck after they've had the larynx removed from their smoking. So type 2 diabetes, to me, in general now, means that this is a sugar addict. This is someone who has been enabled by the medical world with insulin or other medicines that don't fix the problem. They don't talk about the food and the matter of fact, like we do, that, if you're an addict, you can't have it. So anyway, that was my rambling thought about meeting Picard Morceau.
Jean-Luc Picard. I know you wish you had. So you and I, and obviously people are going to defer to you because you actually know what the hell you're talking about, and you have credentials in an education.
I mean, doctors get no training about nutrition.
I have a little problem with the A word. A little bit.
Oh,
When it comes to food or sugar or anything like that.
well, let me send you, let me have you watch Dr. Tarman's first lecture that she gives in her class. It knocks it out of the park. It's the processed food industry.
I understand how our brains call for more glucose. Let's face it, whether it's processed food or Ezekiel bread or a sweet potato or a bran muffin, it comes out of our liver as simple sugar. That is sugar that comes out.
I think that's just one component of it. So if you have teams and teams of really smart people with focus groups to find this bliss point, so it's not just sugar. I think it's the consensus is kind of ultra processed food, where you have a salt, sugar, fat combination. Well, that was Michael Moss's book, Salt, Sugar, Fat, where you're manipulating these three factors to find a Doritos, for example, that
they're delicious.
Human can't resist.
No. Humans can resist. Humans
can resist.
Yeah. just because it's difficult doesn't mean we can't do it. And just because it's delicious. Okay, so my lovely mate, Ernan, you know my husband. We were watching some. Well, I'm addicted to Dateline. I'm not addicted. See, I use the word. I like Dateline. I'm not addicted. Am I going to go into withdrawal if I don't hear Keith Morrison? No, I like Dateline NBC. So there was this storyline, and it's always about a dead person. Somebody's killed somebody, which sounds grim, but I'm kind of into it. So there was this man who was the salt of the earth. He was the greatest father, husband, been married for 32 years, happy family, best neighbor ever. And his poor wife dies in a fire in the family home while he's on the road. He's a traveling salesman. ... or yada, 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 as Elaine Bennis would say. It turns out that he set the fire. First, he shot her 3 times and then set the fire and killed her and their 2 dogs. Why? Well, because I was addicted to sex. What? Well, I'd become addicted to sex. I'm a sex addict. And so when I'm on the road, I was always looking for sex. This guy's like, 62 years old. No offense. But he's 62 years old. So I turned to my husband. I said, dude, isn't every guy addicted to sex? I mean, if you mean addicted, and this is not a joke. If we tell ourselves we're addicted because we want to do that thing as much as we can get away with. Okay, if you want to call that addiction. This guy wanted to have sex as much as he could get away with. That didn't mean he was addicted. If I want to eat tortilla chips or Doritos or M&Ms, as much as I can, air quotes, get away with, because I really wasn't getting away with it, it impacted every aspect of my life. That's not an addiction, that's a behavior. That's me wanting to do what I want to do because it feels really good. Now, I understand. For instance, if I give up M&Ms, which I did, and tortilla chips, I do not have a medical withdrawal. There's dependency, and then there's the little a addiction.
You might have cravings. You might crave them.
You might, yeah. You're not gonna break out in hot sweats. You don't need a what was it on Seinfeld? The withdrawal poncho. You're not going to be spewing and when you're coming off of heroin.
Well, I'll agree with you. There's kind of a spectrum or continuum of dependency and use, and where you draw the line of the addiction, a word, will vary depending on lots of things, depending on our paradigm that we've come from, a paradigm view of the world that, and also I'm going to artfully switch, if it's okay, to one of the questions that came up.
No, it's not okay. Do what I want to do every moment.
Well,
no, I'm going to interrupt though. We have not had any new comments. Can everyone see and hear us? Because I'm not seeing. Usually, they're like flying by. Maybe it's just Dr. Westman and me talking. Okay, thank you. No,
Well,
I know you can hear me. Can anyone else hear us?
Cheryl asked about the 60 Minutes news program.
Okay.
Did you see?
Okay.
I watched part of it, and of course, 60 Minutes at some point did say they were funded by Wegovy, the company that sells Wegovy, which is a medicine for weight loss. But so I was kind of searching, flipping through it, and I see 60 Minutes, and there's this doctor who's just saying obesity is basically genetic. And if you have a family and they're all obese, people are saying they must be feeding the children the wrong thing. And that's wrong. It's genetic. And I was about to blow my top because so I have to agree with this is the spectrum gone way too far to accommodate, if you need Doritos and you need, you have It was just way too politically correct, even for me. And I'm a most of the time politically correct guy, but so no, it is all about what you eat and what you're feeding the children, but it was playing into the idea that you need a medicine to fix it.
There was a People's Pharmacy. I know you've been on the People's Pharmacy,
Oh,
and
sure.
I called in and spoken on the People's Pharmacy after I started this thing. I was so excited one time you were on, and I called in and I talked about it. It was like it was 3 months in. They were talking about depression, anxiety, mental. I don't want to call depression mental illness. I don't want to say the wrong thing. There's a British psychiatrist who's apparently been kind of like the Dr. Westman, saying things that the establishment doesn't love. She made the point that, if you tell a person that their situation is genetic, you were born this way, it actually makes it worse. There's like, oh, I'm doomed. There's nothing I can do. And I felt that way for a while. My father was walking metabolic syndrome. And from the time I was in my mid-20s, I said, well, I'm just my father. I'm my father. I can't do anything about this. The thing was, my father didn't do anything about it because he didn't do anything about it. And I didn't do anything about it until I did something about it. So this whole, I agree with you. Telling something that is genetic is like damning someone.
But I mean, they have a practical point. I could imagine that doctor saying to me, well, not everyone can do a keto diet, which, okay, point well taken, but it still doesn't mean that it's not the food. So practically speaking, a family who's grown up having all of these things you can't stop eating, many of them will come to me and learn this and say, I'm sorry, I just can't do it. Well, that reminds me of Shelley, who was one of our first food delivery participants. We have a program where the medical students and some volunteers from our clinic will help give food on Saturdays, and it's meats, frozen meats, not fruit. And Shelley looked at the food list on the wall in my office and said, I can't do that. There's no way. But then when you called me and said you'd feed me and deliver me the food on Saturdays, I said, what do I have to lose? And so once she learned that after a few days of eating meat, her hunger was gone, the blood sugars were plummeting, and it wasn't difficult to do. It was actually easy to do. So a lot of people, the path of least resistance not only is to get a pill or a shot, but it's to get the weight loss surgery. So actually, I wonder, our Kimberly is our surgical person on this chat. I wonder
there are a lot of people who've had, I happen to know from some of the people who have had surgery. We want to say no judgment here.
Oh, no, right.
When you feel like you've tried everything and you're being told this is the only thing that will work.
Yeah, but no, many of my patients had never tried anything else before they had the surgery. No, there was nothing else that was offered. So even many of the primary care doctors in my area will say, oh, you need to work on your weight here, go to the surgeons instead of go to the medical weight loss clinic first. And certainly it depends probably where you are in the country, but the financial incentive for the health system is to go for the surgery because it makes the most money for that institution.
This makes us sad. Here's another question. Oh, thank you. Yes, I can hear you. Okay, that wasn't really a question. Please, folks, utilize the ask a question. Then you've got Dr. Eric Westman here. And as you can tell, you can ask a very simple question and he will just talk until I jump in and try to change the subject.
So we have 11 votes in the poll. And yet, so please go over to that size. To me, it's that size.
Yeah, to me, it's that side. Oh, look, we can touch fingers. Oh, look at that. Beep.
No,
we're like Michelangelo. Or was it? No, it was Da Vinci. No, Michelangelo, the Sistine Chapel. Yes, we're. Oh,
so
no, okay.
God,
Now we're opposite.
I think it's God and man.
God and man on the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah.
Okay, so Beth writes, my daughter-in-law has been getting these very, very expensive shots from a clinic in Raleigh. It's semaglutide. Ozempic. That makes me mad every time I see those stupid commercials. I yell at the television. Ozempic. Oh, an injectable insulin regulating drug. It apparently has become the trend for the town and country crowd. She lost about 20 pounds, but when I asked what will happen when she stops the shots but continues eating the way she does, she couldn't really give me a good answer.
Right.
Can I tell you my understanding of the problem with Ozempic? And you correct me where I'm wrong, of course. These commercials, Ozempic is supposed to bring down your A1C. And then they're like the happy faces and the happy music behind it is, my A1C was too high, but I'm lucky. I can still produce insulin. Ozempic just helps me take advantage of it. Oh my God. Type 2 diabetes is not the absence of insulin. We're swimming in it. We're up to here in insulin. We need a goggle and an air thing to get out of the insulin. We are just resistant to the insulin.
Yeah, most people don't know that.
So some of these medications can actually create a very correct me if I'm wrong. I heard this from you, so I assume you won't tell me I'm wrong. They can actually create a very dangerous situation that does not occur in type 2 diabetics unless you're taking these medications. Ketoacidosis. If you're a type 2 diabetic, meaning your body creates insulin, but you're resistant, you don't get ketoacidosis. A type 1 diabetic, for whatever reason, is insufficient or no insulin. Big problem, ketoacidosis. You end up in the hospital. You end up in a coma. And these medications are creating a situation that did not exist before.
I totally agree that medications for type 2 diabetes don't fix the problem. The nuance there is that this one, Ozempic, isn't the one that causes ketoacidosis.
Oh, okay.
The SGLT2 inhibitors that make the urine leak glucose. So you have this broth of petri dish to breed bacteria in your urine, and you can actually die of a urine infection. It's called Fournier's gangrene. And yeah, it's terrible. So, but suffice it to say, the medications just manage. You want to change your lifestyle and you want to fix and reverse the diabetes. So now these medicines, though, for diabetes were found, unlike insulin, to lead to weight loss. So your doctor, you're using Ozempic and everyone else is gaining weight because you put them on insulin. Now this person's losing weight. They're thinking now, oh, well, let's use Ozempic for weight loss. So it never was really studied as a weight loss drug formally, like in big trials and looking at all that. So it's being like blurring over into the weight loss world. And even then it's getting out into pop culture as one of the, just sell it for a lot of money to people. And yeah, it cuts out your hunger. You might feel a little nausea and like you've been on the tilt-a-whirl. So you're not really very hungry. And I'm like, is that really how you want to lose weight? To be sick? So some people don't feel well while they're taking it, but it's all the fad and the rage. It really defies explanation why people go to such lengths when it could just be as simple as changing the food. Or maybe it's that addiction. I mean, maybe it's
Yeah.
the compulsive use of sugar.
Well, maybe it's because carbs are delicious. They just are. We like them.
Well,
They now people say, "Oh, well, people write to me and say, "You don't understand." They activate the what is it called? The stupid thing in your brain. Not the it's the dopamine.
yeah, dopamine.
Okay, so does being on a roller coaster or gambling or sex or driving a race car at 195 miles an hour. So what? What do we tell heroin addicts? You got to lay off the heroin, dude.
Yeah, so it's the downstream consequence of the carbs that in the daily consumption. Coming off the holidays, can I confess that I had a few carbs?
Of course you
I'm
can.
sure you've never run into this. One of my family members makes these cookies, and I don't know that she'd know that I loved her if I didn't have one of the cookies. So, but what she's done over time is now the cookies are become smaller and smaller.
Is that a pay on to you?
Well, no, I think it's because she has to be monitoring this as well. She went vegetarian some time ago and has a problem with weight. Yeah, my daughter. So it's like, you fix your own house as best you can, and you teach your daughter or your children. But there's that old, I think it's the musical called Fantastics, that you plant a carrot, you get a carrot, not a bean or a Brussels sprout. If you have a child, you'll never know.
Never freaking know. Kids, they're the worst, and they're also the best. It's just oh yeah. So okay, so well, good for you. The continuous glucose monitor. May I share my experience with this?
Yes, please.
And my thoughts. The experience was
Explain what
not.
it is. Explain what.
Yeah. Okay. So the continuous or CGM, continuous glucose monitor. It's very easy to do, as far as ease of use and the app and everything. Super easy. So it comes in this little thing. They sent the Libre, what's it called? Something Libre, and it comes in and you take it and you go, and it attaches like a kind of like a nicotine patch, but it's an actual scanner. And
it hurts to put it on.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. You don't feel it. It's stuck there pretty well. It's supposed to last for 14 days. Mine fell off one morning at 12 days. But so you sync it up, and it was way off. I have the Keto Mojo, which may be off as well, but I trust it well enough. And actually, I can kind of tell the way I feel. So it was off by about 25 points. So there's a way to adjust it on the app. Go in and make an alteration.
Okay.
So then you can just take it anytime you want to, many times throughout the day. Beep, boop. You're on your phone, go boop, and it goes beep, beep, takes it. Very interesting. It doesn't just take it for that moment. It's scanning the monitor, which has been tracking your numbers night and day.
5 minutes, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, actually. But okay, so ultimately, unless you are I can see how this is a boon to type 1 diabetics. So you are not having to prick and draw blood 5, 6, 7, 8 times a day. Or if you have you're not a type 1, but you have really badly regulated glucose. If your glucose, you have a reading is 325, and then it's 275, and then it's 145. You're trying to figure out what's happening. Frankly, probably what's happening is you're having a burrito and 3 baskets of chips, like my husband and I used to do. We could murder 3 baskets of tortilla chips. before the meal came. But it was, I will say it was probably accurate. I kind of, what it was not regulated. I kind of gauged it. Whatever. And it was calibrated. Thank you. Thank you. Super easy to use. So what? So I look at the information, and you could put your meals in. Oh, add your meals. You can sync it up with the Keto Mojo. You can sync it up with the Garmin. So really, if the answer is don't have a basket of tortilla chips, I don't need a $100 a month thing to tell me that. Don't have baskets of tortilla chips. If you really are, I've made this analogy before. I don't take my temperature all day long. If I'm feeling well, I'm okay. I don't need to know what my body temperature is every minute of the day. And it's expensive. I don't know how they sent me one without a prescription, but they did. So we'll see about that. But again, I cannot. I'm sorry?
What did you learn about what you ate and drank?
Not a damn thing, because my glucose fluctuates. I could see it go in the middle of the night. It looked like it was like 47. Well, I was not dead, but my body chemistry tends to be lower glucose, higher ketones. It's just the way I'm wired. It's kind of why I'm really good at spreadsheets. It's the way I'm wired. But there was a great fluctuation. Now, about 10 days ago, I was not feeling well. I think I know what was going on. And I happened to have checked my blood ketones on the Keto Mojo, which I do like as a device. And it was high for me. It was 112. That's really high for me. My glucose tends to be in the 60s, 70s as a rule. I don't check it often. My ketones tend to be in the 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5. And my ketones were 0.7. So there was something going on. I didn't worry about it. I could kind of feel that I didn't feel great. I wrote it out. This is where I think some of us get off the tracks. We lose sight of the forest because we're looking at the daggum trees. How do we feel? How's our energy? We kind of know if something's not right. You know, there's this old thing about, are you cheating on your partner? And the answer is you're cheating on your partner if you're doing something with somebody that you wouldn't do if your partner was sitting right next to you. You can't really define it, but that's the case. If you don't kind of feel well, you may not be able to define it, but you know, I just don't feel that well. Something's not right. Check it out. And then ask, well, did I eat a basket of tortilla chips? Ooh. And it might not have been 15 minutes ago. It might have been 2 days ago. And I don't feel that well. So my experience, it's a good product. And of course, with this company, here's another thing I did not like. This is the company, I won't call it out. They sent this to me with affiliate links if I want to do it, which I won't do. I started getting texts saying, oh, we're looking at your blood, your glucose and ketone measures over the last 48 hours. Yours have been, which is with this rank. They're not my doctor. So they had access to my medical information. I am sure that I somehow clicked on signing off on that. I don't like it. No es bueno. If you're my doctor, Dr. Westman, and I've done this thing and you've set up this device and we're tracking this because, no me gusta. So I don't like it.
You don't like that?
I don't like that.
Yeah, so I found that I ended up eating more carbs as a result of having a CGM on because I wanted to see what would happen.
And what did?
It was so fun. Oh, my blood sugar went up. So I came in, I was kind of self guilt and shamed myself into wearing a CGM because a couple of young doctors came to visit my clinic and they were wearing them and had been doing it for years and knew that going for a walk after the meal would lower their blood glucose, and they could eat a little ice cream and then go walk for a walk. Of course, these are normal, like 30-year-old humans, so it might not apply to us. But so I finally get one. My blood sugar is 80, like this, But then I wonder what happens if I eat that croissant, that my guilty pleasures every now and then. And sure enough, the blood sugar. So you can test these things to see what happens if you don't eat or exactly on page 4, or you can just stay to page 4.
You can try to reconfirm what you already know. And we're idiots. Squirrels don't need to learn a million times what to do. They just know what to do. They just know what not to do. They just try to stay out of danger and hide their nuts. Humans, we're idiots. And we're also wonderful. It's a conundrum. And by the way, I have seen you eat creme brulee on a cruise. And then I saw you steal and eat Conrad Eberstein's creme brulee when he got up to go to the restroom. So we all know that you occasionally eat carbs.
Well, that was many years
Not that long ago.
Well,
and I eat more food than I need. That's my challenge.
And the lesson here is you want to know what someone's background is. I don't have a big weight loss story. I came to this through the science, through a couple of my patients doing it, observing them. And then, whenever you're looking at other people on the internet, other influencers, how did they get to where they are? What did they use keto for? Which always brings up that the woman in the gym saying you need 150 grams of fat a day. I don't think she had to lose any weight.
Oh, the one that brings the business?
Yeah. So,
maybe not.
Ideally, you want to learn from someone who's used the approach for the same reason that you're using it, and has had clinical experience from it. Which actually gets me to: are you looking forward? Are you going to be on the this year's summertime low carb cruise?
No,
You're not going.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, there is a low carb cruise this summer. The Debbie Hubbs, that cruise that you saw me
eating the creme brulee twice.
But anyway, I guess that's a plug for the. I thought I would never go on a cruise in my life, and then I went on one, and now this will be like my 12th. I would encourage, if you're interested in spending, 6 or 7 days with a bunch of crazy people. I mean, people are doing low carb diets and wanting to learn, and there are lectures along the way. This year, of course, I'll be there, but Ken Berry will be there, and Dr. Boz, I think, is going to be on the cruise. Annette, and I've never spent much time with Annette Boz and her husband before. I've spent a cruise with Ken and Nisha, and that just gives me a chance to kind of size up. Do they really have a clinical experience? Do they really have the grounding that I think you want in an influencer who
have they just really researched what is the trending Google phrase and how many products can we absolutely get to sell? Okay, just saying. Okay.
Who do you think is doing that?
I'm sorry?
Who do you think's doing that?
Okay, moving on. Question from Tracy Howard. Oh, I did it. See, my computer is too slow. Hold, please. Hold, please. I need to redo that one. See, I click and I become impatient. Reopen.
Where are you seeing the?
Okay, I don't think you can see them because I am the boss
Okay.
and you're the speaker. I apologize, everyone. Okay. Should I encourage my parents to do the keto diet, even if they have a hard time being strict with carbs? They are 80 years. I am concerned they will end up eating high fat and high carb at the same time, which is essentially a Dunkin' Donut. I'm going to step off stage.
Well, I certainly think that eating real food, the approach we use, as much as you want, of meat, poultry, fish, and shellfish and eggs being the most important source of nutrition, is healthy for anyone. Um, so it might even be something good for minimal cognitive dysfunction, which is the pre-dementia or pre-Alzheimer's and memory loss. Those studies are ongoing. How someone does it, are you having to teach a new method, and are they doing it right? It's kind of a different issue. So the first issue, if someone's going to do it and does it right, I think sure, it's fine to not eat carbs. It's not what's called an essential nutrient, meaning you don't have to eat carbs. We can make everything from the proteins and fats that we need in terms of the carbs inside our body. We don't need to eat it. So I don't know. I mean, if you don't think they can figure it out on their own, you might go and spend some time with them, send them a book, send them a list of foods, and coach them at first, or have them be coached by someone. But I've had patients in their 90s, and I think the early research is even saying that mice live longer if they don't eat carbs. So, and it's hard to do those studies in humans, of course. But so I'd say, yeah, it's no problem. What do you think?
I think, well, you might have heard the story I told. Well, one of my favorite quotes ever is from George Eliot, which was the pen name of Marianne Evans. It's never too late to be what you might have been. That is not necessarily about nutrition or food intake, but it's kind of never too late to do the right thing, which is, that's Spike Lee. Let me get back over here to make sure I've not done something incorrectly. I have this YouTube channel, and I hear from people, and I kept hearing from a man who said, you're my mother's favorite person, blah, blah, blah. So I had a Go Keto with Casey roadshow in Portland, Oregon. They happen to live in Seattle. So I have this event, and there are people, and we're talking, and and I knew they were coming, and he said, I'm going to bring you my mother. I did not know this guy. I didn't know anything about him, other than he had lost weight, and his mother liked me. Well, I should bring myself back on stage. How can I manage to be off stage for so long? So I'm here, and I know a little bit about the backstory of this. And at the roadshow, everyone's sharing their own. Lost Dr. Westman. Where'd you go, Dr. Westman? What happened?
I was trying to do what you did. I couldn't.
Because I'm the boss.
Okay, sorry.
Next time I'll make you the boss. Okay, so share your story. So here's Marie, this woman, and her attractive son, who, by the way, was a pastry chef trained at the Cordon Bleu. And he changed his entire way of his career because he was, 60 pounds overweight and decided this is not the way to be. So, Marie, tells her story. She has a pacemaker. So she went a pacemaker. And the pacemaker company, someone will know this better than I, they were not getting any alerts. There was no messaging going between Marie and the pacemaker company. So they reach out. Is Marie okay? We have not gotten any alerts. Thanks, love. Can I have a squeeze of the strawberry? Thank you. Thank you. My husband, my producer. No, Marie's great. She's doing awesome. As a matter of fact, her cardiologist is wondering what's going on with her. So she had gone to her cardiologist and everything was great. I said, Marie, what did you do? And I kind of knew the story, so it was a leading question. She said, well, I gave up carbs, essentially. First sugar, then all carbs. Oh, that's great. When did you do that? 3 years ago. Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you. How old are you, Marie? 93. This woman was awesome. She and her cardiologist was very skeptical, and she influenced her cardiologist. And I remember you saying at one of the first Durham support group meetings that I attended, Dr. Westman, might have been the first. You said this is going to be a grassroots movement. This is going to percolate up from patients, up to providers. Eventually, it will get to, when the food industry can figure out how to make money off of this. They're doing it by putting keto. By the way, there's no keto foods. There's no keto snack food. But anyway, yes, it's never too late to make a change. I thought it was too late for me. I was 55. Now that seems like a very young age. Dr. Westman, on Sunday, it will be 9 years since I saw your video. And a lot of people with whom I speak can name the day that they made a change. Whether they saw your video or not, they can name the day that they said, well, that was the moment.
It's like the quit smoking day. Most people know and remember that day that they quit smoking. This is the quit carb day.
Do you guys know that Dr. Westman, one of his first things was smoking cessation? He was not all about nutrition and obesity. He was about quitting smoking. Did you ever smoke, Dr. Westman?
Passively, my parents did.
You did not have to give up smoking.
No.
You could help people give up smoking. And you never really had a weight problem or a food issue, but you can help people with that.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, I did my training at the University of Kentucky in Lexington. And one of my first patients as a young doctor was in there with what's called a COPD exacerbation, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or emphysema. And so, and, basically it's what an awful problem, what an awful disease. And it's from smoking. And so I go in and I say, it's the smoking that's done this. Here I am, naive from Wisconsin down to Kentucky, and I had to learn the language. And you don't ask someone if they're short of breath. They'll go, what? I'm not short of breath. They'll say, I'm smothering real bad. So you have to learn the language and all that. So this fellow basically says, no, I don't think it's the cigarettes that did it. I'm like, what? Really? Yeah. And then he kind of looks at me and earnestly says, nobody else in my family can breathe. And I'm like, do they smoke too? He's like, yeah. So
this is like the genetic. It's genetic.
Genetic thing. Smoking's genetic.
Oh, yoy.
Well, so that's how I got into the smoking cessation. It was following my patients who had a problem. And then when I got to Duke, I met the inventor of the nicotine patch who had a treatment for it. So it wasn't good enough for me to just manage something. And I wanted to fix things, And And so when it came to weight loss and me seeing a couple patients who did the Atkins diet, and I followed up and visited Dr. Atkins and started to do research on it. Again, it was observing what was going on, what the problem was in front of me, and how do you fix it, and found things that would fix it, and then ended up doing research on these things. I didn't just say, okay, I saw someone on Atkins, I'll do it. I had the same concern about safety that everyone else did. And now, we're saying tonight that, yeah, anyone in their 90s can do the Atkins diet or a low carb diet because it's just food. It's actually a healthy way to be. But, well, that's what makes me think, or maybe I'm ripe for the paradigm view of sugar being addictive or ultra processed foods, because I spent 10 years in the cigarette addiction or nicotine addiction world. So yeah, that gives me a different perspective, and I learned a lot from Dr. Vera Tarman. I know I'm mentioning her name again. I should probably write her name in there. But did you ever smoke? I don't remember.
No, and I grew up in a family of smokers. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm pretty sure that if I had ever smoked, I would still be smoking. It would have been very difficult for me. But I'm from a large family. Both parents and all of my siblings smoked, and no one would have said boo to me if I had smoked. Why I don't smoke? I don't know. Same thing with my husband. Everybody smoked in his extended family. He's never smoked. So I'm grateful for that. Okay, so Cheryl Wright, and you met Cheryl in Greensboro. I would not be free from obesity if not for Dr. Westman's video, literature, and book. I just wish I had this information 40 years ago. And this is the sad thing.
Yeah.
There was information 40 years ago. It was just denigrated and covered over and brought up in front of Congress and everything else. The information was there. One person I spoke with who had lost a lot of weight, she lost like 175 pounds. And I thought this is a celebration. But this one day she was so mad. I'm talking with her she said, I can't get over this. I've been taken to fat doctors since I was 10 years old. And no one ever even told me this was an option.
Yeah.
It's upsetting. It's malfeasance, dude.
No, it's scandalous.
It is. It's inhuman.
But like what is it, Stalin or Lenin? One person dies, it's a tragedy. 1 million die, it's a statistic. Nobody cares. So yeah, in fact, did you see? I think Asim Malhotra was interviewed. I didn't see the detail, but he's a leader in the UK about low carb, keto, but also about medications and statin use being overused.
And he's a cardiologist, so this is his wheelhouse.
Yeah, he apparently was on the Tucker Carlson show talking about medication focus of the medical care today, which I totally agree with. That doctors never really ask you what you eat and drink. Really, when was the last time you were asked to fill in one sheet of paper by a doctor, not a nutrition or dietitian, a doctor, and breakfast, lunch, dinner? I do that every visit. And then I take away the medicines my colleagues prescribe if people actually follow the program. So I've learned to say things like, here's the list of food, and I'll give it like a prescription, like a Japanese businessman with a card, bow down a little bit. You follow this, have no doubt it will work. But you have to follow it every day.
You have to follow it.
24 hours a day. What patient would go back and say, well, doctor, you asked me to take this 7 days a week, 4 times a day, but can I take it 3 times a day?
That's
Can I take it 6 days out of the week?
That's a good one, Dr. Westman.
Oh, you like that one?
I do. I like that one. Use that one again.
Well, do I really have to take the pill for 7 days? Can I take it just for 5? No one and expect it to work. You know what doctor would tolerate that? And of course not. I told you 4 times a day for 10 days. Get out of my office, you know. and yet I'm like, well, you know, the stricter you are, the better it works. And how many days a week have you been strict? Well, about 6 out of 7. Well, you know, that's really good. And you know, but let's now try 7 out of 7. Anyway.
I don't know if you remember at one of the Durham support group meetings when we were in the bar area at the Hilton before we got kicked out because of all the poop talk. There was one of your patients, and he said, or you told me afterwards that you didn't remember ever saying this, but he was pretty sure that you had said to him, he was a patient of yours. Listen, I can guarantee you this will work. I just can't guarantee you'll do it.
Yeah. And I can't go with you.
Yeah.
To make sure you do it.
And that kind of boils it all down there, right? So let's we do have another question. This one from Janet Smith. I'm going to be patient in my clicking. I have LADA, off insulin since August 4th, following Dr. W since August 12th, KMS, Keto Made Simple, 7. Lost 10 pounds, am exquisitely sensitive to carbs, age 68, weight 242. I still feel that I am still hyperinsulin and insulin resistance.
Yeah.
HbA1c 5.4. Is there any point in getting a fasting insulin level or just stay the course?
Just stay the course, yeah. So I'm assuming, you know, anyone under 9 feet tall with a weight of 242 will have an elevated BMI. So did you catch that joke? But anyway,
that was a joke. That's pretty good. Yeah. Okay. No, that was not good.
Yeah, so latent autoimmune diabetes is one of these things that doctors diagnose.
I'm sorry. Please back up. LADA, latent autoimmune diabetes. Please explain.
Yeah. Well, you check if you've been injecting insulin, it's not your own body's insulin. Well, there must be some impurities or something, so that most people will develop antibodies to the insulin. And now they figured out a way to detect the antibodies. Well, rather than say, hey, why don't you stop the carbs and lose the 100 pounds and reverse the diabetes, all the doctors are now managing the LADA and saying, oh, you have antibodies and the insulin won't work, so you need to stay on the insulin, which is not the right answer. So I'm not even, this is a study I'd love to do for you endocrinologists out there, or for you who have endocrinologists, and that is to take 10 people with, quote, LADA, reverse their diabetes with a low carb keto diet, and then recheck everything. I'll bet they won't have it. Or even if they have antibodies, it's not going to be it won't have any effect. So anyway, again, it's one of these distractions that have become like, you know, endocrinologists will get mad with me to say, well, they have LADA. And I'm like, yeah, but they have 100 pounds to lose. You got to get the weight down and reverse the diabetes and then say whether they have LADA or not. So it's just another one of these paradigm views that continue the course. Stay the course, Janet.
Stay the course.
So KMS, for those of you who don't know, is Keto Made Simple Masterclass at Adapter Life Academy. And that's my side hustle, my company, for those who can't make it to the clinic, adapterlifeacademy.com. And there will be a KMS class opening later in January this month. So you can sign up to get on the mailing list. we charge $179 for the 3-week Facebook support, and with I think it's a couple of hours of lectures by me that are brief, to the point.
What is the, and I'm going to type this in as you're speaking. What's the URL for that?
Yeah, so it's adaptyourlifeacademy.com.
Okay, because I'm going to do a CTA, call to action. If I can remember how to do this. Adapt your life, LIFE. We could have done this if we'd coordinated earlier, but we did not. Adapt your life. Okay, create. I hope I did that right. Okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to show. Did I do it?
At the very bottom, it says adapt your life.
Okay, see what happens if you, I hope I entered it correctly. And now let me stop this because we are done answering. Okay, and then Janet shares.
On it.
I'm sorry?
It doesn't have Academy on it. It just says
Oh,
life.
Oh, well.
Oh, it does have the URL. If you click on it, you go to it. Oh, I see.
Yay! Okay, so Janet writes, I was newly diagnosed, Lotta, so was not on insulin at the time of diagnosis. And she writes, thank you, thank you. So,
oh, no. Can you type in the call to action and add the Academy on it?
Yes, I can do that, Mr.
Because that takes us to, that takes us to defunct bars. We're no longer selling them.
Good. Oh, sorry. Did I say that out loud? Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, Adapt Your Life Academy.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to edit it. Edit. See? This is a pretty good platform. Adapt Your Life Academy. Save.
So now, let's see. Is it supposed to come up somewhere?
Okay, now let me, I don't know. That's what she said.
So the green thing didn't change, but you can click on my link in the chat box.
So, okay, no, oh dear. Adapt, okay, I changed the title, but not the thing. See, this is what, that's, okay. It's adaptyourlifeacademy.com.
Yeah.
My bad. Edit. Adapt Your Life Academy.com. Save.
I'm really happy. This last year, we created a new course with type 1 diabetes. R.D. Dykman and his family created a course. And
he's so cool.
Yeah. It's David, the son with type 1, got a free ride to Emory.
Whoa.
Emory.
Atlanta?
No, wait. It's in Texas, Baylor. And he's playing.
That kid is going to college?
Yeah.
I'm getting so old.
They grow,
Yeah.
But so for those of you who haven't heard the story, Dave has diabetes, type 1 diabetes. His dad is literally a rocket scientist in Hawaii.
Literally.
And helped Dr. Richard Bernstein, put his information onto YouTube. And then we asked him to write a course for the Adapt Your Life Academy. And basically, he's had normal blood sugars as a teenager. Although what I learned that he became so insulin resistant as a teenager, he had to go from like 20 to 100 units a day of insulin. So there are some times in life where you do become insulin resistant, puberty, pregnancy, and through perimenopause. So these are times, life changes where you may find what you're doing isn't working quite right because your hormonal changes create the insulin resistance. Anyway, so
no
Dave,
one's doing anything wrong. It's just that things change.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, gosh, thanks so much, Casey.
Wait a minute. I have a call to action for myself. You generally do not mind me doing this. So I'm going to take advantage. There are a few of these left.
Oh,
The 2023 Go Keto with Casey calendar.
did you send me one yet?
It's in the mail. It will be in the mail. And it's just, it's just stuff, and I enjoy putting it together, and it's behind the scenes things.
I love those calendars.
And I'm going to, oh, thank you. And I'm going to, I'm going to put a call to action. Can I do this? Hold, please. Call to action. Can we have two up? Show. Oh, we can only have one. Ah, dang. There's the 2023 calendar! Exclamation point. But anyway, if you go to my blog, kcdurango.com, I have a few left. A bunch went out the door today. But I'm going to put back up the Adapt Your Life Academy. So let's look at the poll. Oh, wait a minute. There are 10 new things, but let's look at the poll. It seems to be like Crowdcast is winning out for now. So let's look at comments. Beth Howard, you met Beth in Greensboro. July 27th, 2020 was my start date and reached goal in 21 months. Not one cheat day or meal. I love this new life. It has simplified day-to-day living immensely. When my friends ask me how I got started, I send them the link to Dr. Westman's white coat video and suggest they subscribe to his YouTube channel and Casey's YouTube channel as well. I also tell them it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. That is life-changing. Rich C. Hey, Rich. That's awesome, Beth. Eric writes, check out Food Junkies, a book and podcast by Dr. Vera Tarman. Are you a little bit in love with her or what? Okay, so...
No.
Mike, oh my gosh, Mike Gray. We might run over. You mentioned the doctor that tells people you must buy her potion supplements and monitor in order to do keto properly. I wish her followers would find Casey's channel so that they could find the true keto diet. I didn't read that. I didn't know about the plug for me. I know who this person is, although his YouTube handle is different. Mike, if you're comfortable sharing, I would love for you to share your story. Just type it out. You know what I can do? No, Mike won't do that. If we do this virtually next time, I can invite other people on stage. You can raise your hand and say, yeah, I'm willing to come up here. And we can have come on down. So maybe we'll work on that if we do this virtually. Beth writes, the Keto Made Simple course is awesome and so helpful. Oh, and of course, see also ericwestman.com. Rich, see, I went to the wrong page selling bars. That was my bad. Sorry, Rich. If you scroll down on the page, you will see it. Writes Beth. My bad. Okay, yes, it works openly. Okay, my bad. That was my bad. Good night, you two. Beth is off to feed Gracie, her overweight golden. I love your calendar. Got it. Thank you, Beth. Roseanne, it's great calendar. Rich writes, thank you very much. Dr. Paz, yeah, I saw the hand raise icon. Would be cool to come on stage. If we do this virtually, I will practice that and we will do this. So, Mike, do you want to share your story? I don't want to put your business out there. You've been pretty transparent, and I would love to have you share your story. But I don't want to do it if you don't want. It's interesting. One of the things that I hear, particularly from women, Dr. Boz is the doctor from Sioux Falls that is out for the money, writes Janet Smith. Okay.
Yeah, she moved down to Tampa.
Oh, now she's in. Does that mean she's not out for the money?
No. But
one of the things that's interesting, and I do hear this, and I have the Patreon support group and all that. The food is simple, it's direct. It's the other stuff. It's the onion layers that come off of us because we've pulled all the onion layers on top of us. And I'll hear from people say, listen, I've lost 30 pounds. And no one has said anything about it. People can be reticent about making any comment about weight loss, even if they think it's a compliment, because some people don't want any comment about their weight, even if it is a compliment. You don't, it's a minefield. It's an unwinnable situation. Right? Wow, you look great. Have you lost weight? Why? Did you think I needed to lose weight? I mean, that could be one response.
Yeah.
So we can't know what's going on with somebody else. Someone can have a tremendous success, and they don't want to hear about it because actually they're still traumatized by the effect of the health, the poor health, and the feeling physically bad, and the embarrassment of their size. There is no good way to frame that situation. In my life, I come down every day and I tell my husband the weight fluctuation on the scale, which is, it was, down 2/10, it was up 4/10, it was down a pound, it was up. We never talked about my weight or the scale when I was obese. It was the third rail of conversation. No one was going to talk about it around me, whether good or bad. It just wouldn't come up. But after I started feeling better about myself, and I felt like I had the answer. It wasn't a trick or a kit or a supplement. It was just lay off the carbs. It was like I wasn't fearful about the topic anymore. It wasn't that I was a screw up. I was just operating under the wrong information.
Yeah.
Talk about liberating. Okay, apparently Mike is not going to share his story, so I will not. Mike Gray, thank you. Top one, answered 6. Lost, Dr. Westman, listen to this. Lost 255.2 pounds in 12 months. Following the very simple protocol. It is that simple. 20 grams or fewer total, not net. Stop falling for the keto food scams. Thank you both for spreading the truth. And there's another comment. That's astounding. Okay, so Mike has posted this. 255.2 pounds in 12 months. And I know this because he's kind of post on I do YouTube live streams on Saturdays. It's so unbelievable. What is it you say? It's so unbelievable people don't believe it.
That's right.
And he just never deviated. He just did it 7 days a week, not 4 days a week. He didn't do the keto foods, no cheat days. He laid off the carbs and he laid off the excuses. And I would love to meet you, Mike. So I think this is a fantastic way to wind up this. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Dr. Westman, for always giving of your time.
My pleasure. I still have great memories from the Greensboro Roadshow.
That really was fun, right?
We went.
I'm not sure I want to do it again because I don't think it may not be as good. That was such a fun time.
Carousel, zip lining,
walking around the park,
yeah.
Steaks. It was a great day.
Oh, yeah. Hernan, thanks for the ribeyes.
By the way, look what he brought me from Colombia from this last trip.
Oh,
Did you know that Colombia is the largest producer of emeralds in the world and the highest quality emeralds? And he brought me an emerald and diamond ring. So there you go.
Congratulations.
By the way, we need to see each other in person, whether or not we're doing the Durham Sport Group meeting. I miss seeing your face. Okay. Thanks, guys.